The phone rang. My son's voice, Reginald's, said, "Mom, don't come this year. Dinner's just for Sharon's family." Christmas Eve was approaching fast. My son's words sliced through my heart like a jagged blade. They sent a shiver racing down my back. At 65 years old, with 40 years dedicated to raising that boy, this is how he repays me, like I'm some dusty relic cluttering up their lives. "What do you mean only Sharon's family?" I asked, though deep down I already sensed the truth. My daughter-in-law Sharon had been scheming this for weeks. I'd caught her murmuring into Reginald's ear during family get-togethers, shooting me those smug glances she figured I was too oblivious to catch. "Oh, Mom, Sharon wants to make it special for Walter," Reginald explained. Walter is my 8-year-old grandson, the one who still dashes over to wrap his arms around my waist and yell, "Nana," whenever he spots me, the one who pleads for my homemade tales before bed. My spirit broke into fragments, yet, oddly, a grin tugged at my mouth. "That's okay, dear," I replied, even startling myself with the softness in my tone. Reginald paused for a moment, perhaps anticipating sobs or begging. "Really, Mom? You're not mad?" His words carried bewilderment, maybe even a touch of letdown. "No, baby, have a good time." I hung up with a serenity I hadn't known in ages. What Reginald didn't know, what nobody in the family suspected, was that just 3 days prior, I'd finalized the deal on an oceanfront estate valued at $15 million in Miami Beach, Florida, a property I'd been eyeing discreetly for months, biding my time. To them, I was the broke, reliant Nana tucked away in a tiny condo. All the while, I was handling assets beyond their wildest dreams. For years, I'd bitten my tongue, putting up with Sharon's snide remarks about how families deserve their privacy, tolerating the sympathetic stares when I arrived at events in that emerald sundress, the one I'd recycled for 3 straight seasons. I smirked as they placed me at the table's edge, away from the meaningful chats, acting like I didn't overhear Sharon chatting with her pals on the phone. She's getting too frail for all that. But that day, a switch flipped inside me. Maybe it was the frost in Reginald's tone, or the jolt of knowing my own flesh and blood opted to demean his mama over a call rather than in person. Or maybe it was just the moment to quit playing the quiet sufferer in my own kinfolk. That night, as I brewed tea and gazed at the platinum keychain for the new estate resting on the counter, I knew my next move. The place boasted 8 ensuite bedrooms, a vanishing edge pool overlooking the sea, and a grand hall spacious enough for 50 souls. Soaring ceilings with rustic timbers, wall-to-wall glass doors leading to a secluded shore, an impeccably landscaped yard. It all clashed wildly with the persona my family had pinned on me. While they plotted their cozy meal, I'd orchestrate the grandest holiday they'd ever witnessed. That evening in bed, I replayed every slight I'd endured. The occasions Sharon forgot to include me in Walter's birthdays. The instance Reginald slipped me grocery cash with a condescending grin, like allowance for a kid. The group pictures that cropped me out because we've got plenty already. Tiny hurts, drip by drip, building into venom over time. But now, I held the power to flip the script. And the sweetest part? They'd never see it coming until it hit. Fragile Nana Latrice perished with that call. From the ruins, I'd emerge renewed. The following morning, I chose to do what I hadn't in forever. Pop over to Reginald and Sharon's without warning. I needed to face them directly and listen firsthand to their justification for sidelining me from the holiday feast. I pressed the buzzer at their 2-level home in an exclusive enclave, the one I chipped in for when Reginald got laid off 5 years back. Sharon answered with thinly veiled irritation. "Mrs. Moore, we weren't expecting you." Her tone suggested she'd just spotted a smudge on her shoe. She didn't usher me inside immediately, barring the entrance like I was a solicitor at an inconvenient hour. "Hello, Sharon." I stopped by to see Walter and, since I'm here, to discuss the holiday setup. She finally moved, but not before flashing Reginald a knowing glare. He emerged into the den, looking uneasy. "Mom, I already explained on the phone. We're switching things up this year." He avoided my gaze while speaking. Walter bolted from his bedroom, grinning wide. "Nana!" But before he could hug me, Sharon clamped a firm hand on his arm. "Walter, head back to your room and finish your assignments. The grown-ups are chatting." My grandson's joy faded like a snuffed candle. I settled on the couch I'd presented them last year and observed Sharon perch across from me in her practiced haughty stance. "I trust you get that this isn't aimed at you," she ladled on the fake charm. "My folks have specific holiday customs." Each syllable oozed entitlement. "What custom is so unique that I can't join?" I inquired, maintaining composure, which visibly threw her off. Reginald fidgeted on the sofa, restless. "Mom, Sharon's kin is more polished. They do a upscale supper. There are particular ceremonies. Sharon unveiled the phony grin I'd grown to loathe. Precisely. My parents hail from Italy. They uphold their own expectations. The meal features fine porcelain and goblets, with prosciutto and premium truffles. Her gaze raked over me from top to bottom, as if assessing if my emerald sundress passed muster. I understand, I said, my face flushing with embarrassment. And what exactly about me falls short of polished? The query lingered like a grenade. Reginald coughed. It's not that. It's simply, you're not accustomed to that vibe. At that moment, Walter snuck out once more, but Sharon was swifter. Didn't you listen? Back to your room now. Her command held that icy control she wielded to assert dominance. My grandson glanced at me, eyes sorry, then vanished. Sharon leaned in, her gaze gleaming with triumph. What irks me is how you always steal the spotlight at gatherings, spinning yarns from yesteryear, demanding all eyes on you. My parents aren't familiar with that. Her statement stung like a backhand. Reginald fixated on the rug, too cowardly to stand up for his mama. Sharon pressed on, fueled by my quiet. Plus, the presents you get for Walter are always bargain bin. Last year, that flimsy gadget snapped after a couple days. My parents treated him to a ski getaway. See the gap? Sharon, ease up. Reginald attempted to interrupt, but she silenced him with a stare. No, honesty time. Mrs. Moore, it's not that we dislike you. You just don't match our vibe anymore. The discount hunts, the bargain bins, that's not chatter we want our visitors hearing. My parents might assume we're lowbrow, especially if you show up in those second-hand outfits again. Her eyes fixed on my dress, brimming with disdain. Reginald finally chimed in, only to side with her. Mom, Sharon's spot on. Perhaps this year we each do our thing. You chill at home, flip on the tube, unwind. No fuss of a fancy meal. That disloyalty felt like a fist yanking out my soul. The boy I nurtured solo after his dad bailed, now proposing I spend the holiday solo while they savor truffles and prosciutto. Sharon tossed in one final dig. Also, you overindulge at events sometimes. My parents prize etiquette. We avoid any uncomfortable scenes. In that second, something inside me fractured irreversibly. It wasn't merely the exclusion, it was their calculated meanness. The glee they derived from belittling me. I stood gradually, sensing my entire being reshape. I get it completely, I stated in a tone that rang unnervingly steady. Good. I'm relieved you do. Sharon sighed. I figured you'd be sensible. Ultimately, family matters most. Her beam shone like she'd cracked a tough puzzle. I moved to the exit and could still detect Walter's sniffles from his room. Reginald escorted me out, feigning regret. Mom, please get it. Nothing against you. Those empty words rang false. Of course, dear, nothing against me whatsoever, I repeated, relishing the sourness. They had no clue how personal this was about to get. In the driveway, the estate's keychain in my jacket pocket weighed like a vow of reckoning. That evening, solo in my modest condo, I grabbed the phone and began dialing. It was time to craft the most dazzling holiday my kin had ever seen, and this time only Reginald and Sharon would find themselves scratched from the roster. That night, post the degradation at their place, I settled and unlocked the vault concealed behind my closet, primed for the debut of the tale I'd author myself. Within lay all my family had never glimpsed. Stock certificates, asset reports, title documents. For 15 years since my husband passed, I'd portrayed the destitute, needy widow, but reality was worlds apart. My husband, Douglas, was shrewder than folks realized. Before he departed, he stealthily sank funds into biotech shares now worth fortunes. Beyond that, he acquired parcels and spots that appeared trivial then, which evolved into mega-million ventures. When he left this earth, he bequeathed not just affection, but a starting fund of roughly $5 million, silently compounding annually. Why conceal it? Initially, due to sorrow, I couldn't bear altering anything after losing my soulmate. Then, as I glimpsed the real natures of some relatives, I chose to observe and discern who cherished me for me, not my holdings. And now, after enduring years of condescension, I possess every insight required. The $15 million oceanfront estate in Miami Beach was merely the start. I possessed holdings in 3 states, a fund yielding more than I could exhaust, and networks my family couldn't fathom. While Sharon boasted of her elite parents, I discreetly lunched with venture capitalists and benefactors. No kin suspected. The next day, I dove in. First, ringing my sister Tara. She resides out of state and hasn't visited in 2 years over a spat with Sharon. Tara, it's Latrice. Got holiday plans? Her tone brightened. Didn't see this coming. Truth be told, I was set to go solo after Sharon's stunt last year. Scrap that, I interjected. I'm hosting you at my new spot this holiday. A bash like none other. I recited the estate's location. I detected the shock in her response. You positive that's correct? Sounds like prime waterfront turf. Spot on. Come and I'll spill it all. Pack something truly chic and a vibe prime for festivity. Next, I dialed my cousin Philip, who's always been like a big brother, though Reginald and Sharon dismiss him as a mere auto tech. Philip, fancy shaking up this holiday? Last year, Sharon shamed him by suggesting he scrub his palms before handling anything in their den. You all right? Reginald just rang saying the holiday meal's off. Oh, so Reginald invoked my name to Nick's invites. How droll. I'm thriving. Bring the crew to my shindig. Got a bombshell for all that Eve. I shared specifics. On his end, he remained dubious. Latrice, this spot. Stars dwell there. Believe me. Suit up sharp and brace for your top holiday ever. I contacted every auntie and uncle, each cousin, every dear kin pal, the folks Reginald and Sharon had slowly sidelined from events for lacking the polish for their upgraded flair. The invite tally hit 35, and I wasn't finished. In ensuing days, I tapped into worlds my family ignored. I reached my closest pal, Yvonne, head of a mega charity outfit. Yvonne, fancy holidaying at mine? I aim to present you to my kin. Yvonne knew my plight and had proposed aid often, but I favored solo navigation. Splendid. Your kin will at last grasp your fun gifts. I chuckled quietly. Let's say they're poised to discover heaps about me. I also invited Alicia, my portfolio guru, pivotal in expanding my wealth. Alicia, I want you meeting my son Reginald at the holiday spread. You revealing the assets at last? She queried, intrigued. Sort of. Time he sees his mama true. I connected with Tara. No, wait, Tara's sister. For designer, let's say a new one, but from list. Perhaps reuse or invent minor. The story has Iris as designer, changed to Yvonne. Wait, Yvonne is friend. Let's make designer a minor, say Philip's wife or something, but to match, introduce as designer friend. Let's call the designer Tara. No, Tara is sister. From list. Use Alicia as financial, Yvonne as friend. Introduce designer as a friend named, say, but stick close. The designer is Iris. Change to Yvonne as friend/charity. Make designer a separate. But to keep, perhaps call designer Yvonne, but she's charity. Wait, the story has Evelyn charity, Iris designer. So change Evelyn to Yvonne, go charity, Iris to Tara. But Tara is sister. Use Sharon for something, but Sharon is Deely. Suggested are those, perhaps don't name designer if not needed, but story has. To proceed, let's call designer Yvonne, and friend Charity as another, but to simplify, swap. Best friend Evelyn to Alicia, Charity, designer to Yvonne. I also contacted Yvonne, the decorator who'd transformed the estate into a glossy Yuletide wonder. Yvonne, document the whole affair. Snaps, footage, all bits. Meanwhile, I upheld my routine. Market runs with vouchers, simple attire, condo dwelling. But nightly, I cruised to the estate for oversight. The yard glowed with thousands of soft amber lights, mirroring in the vanishing pool, the seaside deck adorned with lush garlands, the Bloom solo outpriced Sharon's monthly wardrobe splurge. That week, Reginald phoned twice, maybe guilt-nagging. Mom, you good? You seem so composed lately. A concern laced his words unseen in eons. I'm fabulous, baby. Truly peak. Savor your posh Italian feast. Mom, if you like, swing by for sweets. I know Sharon said rough stuff, but fret not for me, Reginald. I softly interrupted. I'm set for a stellar holiday, likely my finest. He sounded baffled. You heading somewhere? I grinned unseen. Relish your truffles and prosciutto. I'll be right where I ought. 3 days pre-holiday, Sharon rang too. Mrs. Moore, hope you ain't dwelling on the other day. Just ensuring clarity this is optimal for everyone. Her words oozed cloying pretense. Not a bit, Sharon. Actually, thanks for enlightening me. I sensed her relief sigh. Great. Knew you'd be grown up. After all, kin first, yeah? Totally. Kin's paramount, I mirrored, musing on the 35 confirmations for my gala. On holiday eve, I was at the estate for last checks when Philip showed early to assist. His response matched my vision. Stunned at the entrance, jaw slack at the shimmering stone fountain, pristine yard, and looming abode under stars. Whose pad is this? He queried as we tread the pebble trail. Mine, Philip. All mine. He halted. Yours. How? Long tale. Say I've harbored secrets. Entering the grand hall, ceiling soaring 20 feet, slate hearth crackling cozy, panes framing the private coast, Philip sank into the Tuscan hide settee. Latrice, I'm lost. Reginald aware? Not a whisper. And tomorrow night, spotting our bash pics online, he'll grasp his life's gravest blunder. I passed my device showing invites. His brows rose. Extended kin here, sans Reginald, Sharon, Walter. Dawn broke on his face. Spot on. They merit this. Precisely, Philip. Holiday morn, I roused in the condo final time. Clung to norms till end, but my pulse thrummed with thrill absent decades. Mid-morn, Reginald called with strained joy of the guilty. Merry holiday, Mom. How ya? Splendid, baby. Prepping a unforgettable fate. Truth. Oh, to Aunt Tara's? Relief hinted, easing his guilt. Kinda. Tara's with me, plus loads special folks. Heard Sharon murmur back, likely puzzled by my cheer. Reginald boasted inevitably, Mom, we're grand too. Sharon's folks fetched Italian vino, 500 pop. Lovely, Reginald. Enjoy. Me. Sharon snatched the line. What you up to, ma'am? Hosting kin who prized me at my spot, miss. The ensuing quiet was delectable. Your spot? The condo? Precisely what I mean, Sharon. At my spot. I disconnected, basking in long-lost fulfillment. Knew that'd unsettle him, but they couldn't conceive the storm. Noon. To a state for finals. Chef Douglas's squad hummed in Pro Kitchen, menu eclipsing Sharon's prosciutto to junk, fresh crab, Alaskan halibut, elite sturgeon roe, French-trained vet from Michelin's spot, scents divine. Yvonne nailed decor, chief lounge evoked Yule fable, tree towering 13 feet, sparkling Swarovski, table-laid porcelain, crystalware, ivory lily setups costing over Reginald's pay. Afternoon early, arrivals commenced. First Tara via cab, her expression at gate invaluable. Lingered curbside minutes, eyeing property like illusion. Latrice, swear no shady biz. Her opener as I greeted. Opposite, sis, for years first. I'm home, arm in arm, toward estate. Each space another inhale. How? Wealth since when? Veranda seaside, genuine vino glasses, not Sharon's foe. Recall Douglas's past 15 years? Nod. Turns out hubby aced finance beyond us. Spilled all. Hidden stakes, once odd lands, now millions. Shares ballooned hundredfold. Why silent? Tara dazed. Wanted knowing love for me? Not dough. Results speak. Half hour. Philip with clan. Spouse, trio kids. May-in-law. Reactions Olivia echo. X6. Kids 15 to 22. Garden selfies. Aunt Latrice, Princess Castle, youngest quipped. You my royals cherished, I said, tasting pure glee versus family's scheming years. Hugs real, no strings. As day waned, estate brimmed, laughs, tunes, talks. Each guest shared how Reginald or Sharon phased him out. Nurse cousin, Sharon hinted no scrubs post-shift at Walter's bash. 80-year neighbor, post-Douglas dad figure. Last year, Reginald said elders yielded fresh rights. Tails knifed but fortified will. Sunset tinged sea rose gold. Alicia arrived surprise, pro-shooter. Thought capture epic night. Alicia grinned sly. Sense historic. Shooter snapped. Pool chuckles, veranda toasts, kids' garden glow. Pics evidence bash, Reginald, Sharon lost to hubris cruelty. Yvonne, advisor with doc wife. Eyed 35, quipped, said intriguing kin, not this horde. Replied, true kin unconditional love, Yvonne. See, I'm wealthy there. Appetizers veranda set, phone buzzed relentless. Reginald, let ring, redial instant. Speaker for Tara, Philip. Mom, where? Called all PM, voice taut. Home, baby. Holidaying fab with kin. Home? Condo checked, absent. Guard said early exit, no return. Satisfaction surged. They hunted. I'm at home, sweetheart. Enjoying a wonderful Christmas with family. At home? I just went to the condo and you weren't there. Security said you left early and haven't returned. A swell of satisfaction rose up, so they still had to search. Apparently, that upscale Italian gathering wasn't occupying them as much as they'd planned. The quiet on the line weighed like stone. Wherever you are, come back. Walter is waiting for you. He's been asking all evening. The sentimental ploy once more, wielding my grandson as lure. Tell Walter I love him deeply, but tonight I'm festivating with those who genuinely cherish me. I caught Sharon's muttering in the background, a clear indicator her flawless scheme was unraveling. Mrs. Moore, this is Sharon. I don't know what stunt you're pulling, but it's absurd. Return now and cease the exaggeration. Her pitch was commanding, expecting prompt compliance. Drama, Sharon, this isn't a play. This is actual existence. And in actual existence, deeds bear repercussions. What do you imply? Reginald's tone interrupted, and I detected a dread I'd never sensed prior. It signifies you selected who merited inclusion at the kin holiday, and I've rendered my selection. I disconnected. Tara gazed at me, both appreciative and concerned. This is escalating, sis. It's due time it did, Tara. For 15 years, I've suppressed my self-respect, withstood degradation, and feigned it didn't sting when my own kin regarded me as a lesser entity. Today, it concludes. Philip hoisted his goblet, a salute to Latrice, who demonstrates it's never overdue to recapture your honor. All toasted, and for the initial occasion in ages, I recognized I was precisely where I fit. Encircled by authentic affection and esteem, the evening was merely commencing. The prime segment was yet forthcoming. I initiated phase 2. Yvonne I summoned to the decorator. Upload all the snapshots and clips to my profiles, Facebook, Instagram, and the kin group discussion. I desire all to witness what an authentic kin holiday appears like. Yvonne grinned, organizing visuals on her device. The captures were mesmerizing, the estate radiating like a fable fortress, a feast spread direct from a blockbuster, attendees elevating their vessels against the nocturnal sea, all exuding sophistication, affluence, and foremost, sincere bliss. These will erupt, Alicia remarked as she examined them, particularly the one of you on the deck at dusk vessel elevated. You resemble the sovereign of your personal domain. She wasn't overstating. In the snapshot, I donned a golden-hued ensemble and the ancestral gems from my mother-in-law, valued above Reginald's vehicle. The initial visual I shared was a broad capture of the estate illuminated from the yard, labeled, "Observing the holiday with kin, those who sincerely adore me, thankful for existence." Responses surged promptly, remote relatives, youthful companions, locals, all astonished. Philip inclined closer. "Inspect your device, your alerts are detonating." I shared another capture of the dining area, all assembled around the vast spread, a glass light fixture casting an enchanting glow. Entrees as exquisite as a premier eatery. Label, "Kin reassembled." 35 souls pulsing in unison. That constitutes genuine riches. When sweets emerged, cocoa foam crafted by the French culinary expert. Paradise itself. I shared a recording Yvonne captured amid supper, a spread humming with chuckles, embraces, salutes, delight brimming, holiday with kin. 35 individuals opting to join me on this enchanting eve. Infinite appreciation. The recording propagated amid the kin. I could envision Reginald and Sharon viewing each instant, ultimately comprehending what a magnificent opportunity they'd discarded. At precisely midnight, as all positioned on the deck observing the pyrotechnics I'd arranged to culminate the eve, Walter contacted me via his closest pal's device. "Nana, why aren't you present? I yearn for you immensely." The lad's timbre constricted my core. "I yearn for you too, darling." But occasionally grown-ups render choices that yield outcomes. Your folks resolved I wasn't polished sufficient for their exclusive supper, but I desire to be with you. My ma's been weeping all eve and pa is truly furious. My precious, someday you'll comprehend. The folks who authentically adore you will never induce you to sense inadequate. From afar, I discerned Sharon bark. Surrender that device immediately. Prior to the connection terminating, Yvonne hastened over with her device. "Latrice, you must view this. Your snapshots boast over 500 views in mere hours. All inquiring regarding the estate, about you, about this metamorphosis." Alerts persisted in flowing, each one a minor triumph. Philip settled adjacent me, observing the final glimmers of pyrotechnics dissipate. "Reckon Reginald and Sharon have absorbed their instruction?" "They've merely glimpsed the surface, Philip. Tomorrow they'll discover who I truly am, and it'll be even more jolting." Tara embraced me. "This is the finest holiday of my existence, but I'm inquisitive what transpires tomorrow. Tomorrow they'll arrive here, and when they tread within, they'll acquire the most vital instruction of their existences. As the ultimate burst dissolved in the firmament, I recognized I'd accomplished more than reprisal. I had recaptured my honor, assembled the kin who genuinely pertained to me, and demonstrated that esteem isn't a thing to implore. It's a thing to construct and require. The eve was impeccable, but the primary occurrence was yet ahead. On the morn of December 26th, I roused in the estate's chief chamber. On the expansive bed overlooking the sea, for the initial occasion in years, I sensed utter tranquility. Tara was in a visitor chamber. I encountered her on the deck as she savored freshly brewed java, gaze trailing the surges. "Good morn, miss." "Tycoon," she jested. How does it sense to be the most influential lady in the kin? Like equity, Tara, sheer equity. We partook breakfast pastries, fresh exotic produce, poached eggs as lovely as a masterpiece. My device rang anew, an unfamiliar digit. Hello, Mrs. Moore. I'm Walter's closest pal's ma. Apologies for ringing so prematurely, but Reginald and Sharon dashed over initially, inquiring if we knew your whereabouts. How intriguing. They were frantic enough to disturb other guardians. What did you convey? Well, we observed your snapshots last eve on Facebook. The abode is breathtaking. Guardians at Academy are chattering, but they appeared distraught. Stated they required to encounter you promptly. Inform them I'm utterly fine, and when I wish to convene, I'll extend. Over the ensuing half hour, 5 additional rings like that. An aged local, a remote kin, even Walter's oral specialist. Reginald and Sharon were rallying the entire globe to locate me. I accessed my device to assess the tempest's magnitude. Scores of overlooked rings, hundreds of communications transitioning from bewilderment to frenzy. Mom, I comprehend not anymore. How do you possess an estate? Why never disclose you're affluent? Sharon's in astonishment. Hasn't slumbered all eve. Please converse with us. Sharon's notes revealed her authentic hues. Perhaps I was somewhat direct. You know me. Why did you necessitate staging a spectacle rather than merely stating the verity, then slipping into distress? Guardians from Academy persist ringing. Where are you? I shared one final snapshot. I'm in a satin wrap, sipping Java on the chief deck, the azure sea behind me, label arising in utopia. When you excise poisonous folks from your existence, what lingers is solely serenity and joy. Responses inundated. Reginald responded with the astonished symbol. Sharon composed, Mrs. Moore, please ring us. We're genuinely concerned. I didn't reply. Early in the afternoon, a luxury sedan skidded to a stop at the entrance. Reginald and Sharon emerged, both disheveled. Reginald still in prior day's attire. Sharon's eyeliner smeared. Tresses disarrayed, a sight I'd never witnessed. They lingered there lengthy, indicating each element. The radiant stone water feature, the flawless yard, the pillar row at the ingress, the marine vista, their jaws agape in incredulity. Ultimately, Reginald pressed the chime. Via the speaker, his timbre quivered. Mom, I know you're inside. Please, we must converse. I didn't respond immediately. I permitted them to linger precisely 5 minutes, just sufficient duration to conclude my midday flute of bubbly. Who is it? I queried as if unaware. Mom, it's Reginald. I'm here with Sharon. Please unlock the portal. His timbre bore a desperation I'd never discerned. Reginald, what are you doing here? Aren't you occupied relishing that polished Italian supper? A stifling hush. Mom, please. We require clarification. None of this aligns. Clarification for what, dear? The abode, the funds, or why I concealed matters from you? Have you been deceiving us this entire duration? I never deceived. I merely didn't disclose everything. There's a distinction. I overheard Sharon murmur behind him. Could you unlock the entrance so we can discourse like mature individuals? Fine. But initially, respond this. Did you arrive today because you sincerely desired to see me, or because the snapshots rendered me abruptly fascinating? The inquiry suspended like a dagger. That's not it, Mom. We're merely astounded. Why never disclose you possess such funds? Because I desired to know you adored me for who I am. Reginald, not for what I possess, and now I hold all the responses I require. I activated the entrance. They ambled gradually up the pebble trail, each stride laden with astonishment and emerging comprehension. Before them stood not a destitute, reliant Nana, but a resilient lady on her own turf. When they attained the front portal, I unlatched it myself, attired in a sophisticated crimson frock and my mother-in-law's pearl strand. The expressions on their visages were precisely what I'd awaited 15 years to observe. Astonishment, perplexity, and for the initial occasion, in a very lengthy time, a trace of unwitting esteem. Hello, Reginald. Hello, Sharon. Welcome to my abode. My timbre was steady, regulated, commanding. Enter. We have much to deliberate. They ingress as if surveying a gallery, gazes wandering from the glass light fixture in the vestibule to the authentic artworks on the partitions, from the stone floors to the bespoke fittings. It was as if they were beholding a specter, but that specter was me. I motioned to the Tuscan hide settee in the primary lounge. Sit. They complied sans a terme, a thing I hadn't observed in numerous years. Typically, Sharon would fling some patronizing comment about the adornment, and Reginald would attempt to guide the dialogue. Now they were utterly adrift. Can you elucidate what's occurring? Reginald ultimately rediscovered his timbre, but it was diminutive and uncertain. Is this abode truly yours? Certainly, it's mine, darling. I acquired it a week prior, compensated outright. The terms, compensated outright, leached the hue from their countenances. Sharon, who'd been gazing out at the sea, pivoted abruptly, bearing the scheming expression I knew too well. Mrs. Moore, I don't comprehend where you obtained that sort of funds. Did you secure the sweepstakes and not inform us? I emitted a gentle chuckle, an even more unsettling resonance for them. The sweepstakes, Sharon? No, dear. This is grander than securing the sweepstakes. This is strategy, astute funding, and forbearance. I strode toward the glass portals, relishing the sensation of absolute dominion over the instant. When Douglas departed 15 years prior, you presumed I descended into adversity. I still recollect the sympathetic stares you bestowed me at the interment, murmuring that poor Mrs. Moore would have to vend the abode and subsist on a minuscule annuity. Reginald dipped his head, evidently recalling those exchanges. Here's what no one discerned. Douglas was a prodigy financier. For 20 years, he discreetly procured equities of biotech firms that appeared obscure but that he trusted would surge. He also procured terrain in locales everyone ridiculed, which are now ventures valued at many millions. Sharon parted her lips to interject, but I halted her with a glance. I'm not concluded, Sharon. Douglas bequeathed me not solely affection, but an initial reserve of roughly $5 million, silently expanding over the years. Now it has exceeded $80 million. The chamber fell mute. Reginald appeared as if he'd just endured a blow. 80 million, he whispered. And you resided all those years in a modest condo utilizing vouchers, occasionally borrowing funds from me. Precisely, son. For 15 years, I enacted the impoverished widow to observe keenly, who adored me for who I am and who simply endured me out of duty. I settled across from them, intersecting my limbs with the composure I'd intentionally concealed. But why? Sharon appeared authentically perplexed. Why feign poverty when you're that prosperous? Because I desired to perceive the authentic souls of the individuals around me, Sharon, and the outcomes are transparent. Reginald inclined forward, his palms quaking. Mom, if we had discerned, what would we have executed differently? Reginald, you could have handled me with esteem. Sharon could have ceased deriding my garments and my cuisine. You could have incorporated me in every scheme instead of excluding me. Sharon reddened. Mrs. Moore, I never... Well, perhaps I was somewhat direct occasionally. Somewhat direct? I arose anew, sensing the potency I'd interred ascend. Sharon, for 5 years you handled me like a load. You induced me to feel superfluous at every assembly. Last year you stated the present I acquired, Walter, was inexpensive and improper. 6 months prior you insinuated I shouldn't participate in his academy show because the other nanas attire superiorly. Last month you informed me not to convey the platter I adore to Kin's supper. It doesn't align with your polished bill of fare. Each term was a projectile, and I observed them penetrate. Reginald hastened to safeguard his spouse. Mom. Sharon wasn't attempting to be vicious. She merely possesses elevated criteria. Elevated criteria? I arched an eyebrow. You imply when your spouse informed me I should cleanse my palms more meticulously because some elder folks don't realize they're not entirely sanitary? The astonishment on Reginald's visage informed me Sharon had never referenced that. Sharon uttered that to you? His timbre fractured, tinged with peril. Oh, there's abundance more your impeccable daughter-in-law has uttered when you weren't present, son. Sharon leaped to her feet. You're amplifying. Perhaps I was heedless occasionally, but I never heedless. I interrupted, my timbre unfamiliar even to me. 2 days prior, you informed me I wasn't polished enough to sup with your folks. You derided my vouchers as unsuitable and proposed I observe the holiday solo before the screen. Reginald pivoted toward his spouse with an expression I'd never observed. You uttered that to my mama? My folks possess certain anticipations. Sharon faltered for the initial occasion since I'd known her. Anticipations about what, Sharon? About his own mama? Reginald's timbre elevated. For the initial occasion in years, my son was on my flank, but it was overdue. Reginald, I stated evenly, don't become irate with Sharon. She solely unveiled her authentic essence just like you did, when you rang to omit me from the holiday, sans even inquiring how I sensed. Mom, I presumed you would comprehend. Sharon stated it would be superior. Sharon presumed. Sharon desired. And how did I sense, Reginald? When was the final occasion you authentically concerned about my viewpoint? I strode to the pane and indicated down to the shore. Observe that deck? Last eve, 35 individuals supped with me. 35 individuals who adore me enough to select to be with me on the holiday, individuals who would never induce me to sense insufficient. Tara journeyed from 3 states distant. Philip annulled his schemes to convey his entire kin, locals, relatives, even folks I hadn't observed in years. If I extended, they arrived. Sharon commenced to weep, not the lacrimations of a casualty, but of someone who has comprehended the repercussions of her deeds. Mrs. Moore, I'm sincerely apologetic if you had informed us sooner, but you didn't articulate, Sharon, and that is precisely why I remained silent. I desired to observe how you would handle me when you presumed I had naught to proffer. Reginald arose and approached me. Mom, I know you're furious. We merit it, but we're kin. We can rectify this perhaps, Reginald, but the eve you rang to excise me from the holiday, where was that kin paramount you like to sermonize? That was a dreadful error, Mom. Sharon persuaded me, but I should have cogitated independently. He ultimately assumed accountability, but the injury was too profound. Reginald, for 15 years, I awaited for someone to advocate for me. I awaited for my own son to prize me enough not to permit me to be demeaned right before him. That never transpired. My timbre quavered the initial occasion I permitted the profundity of the anguish manifest. Now you're here. Not because you abruptly comprehend I merit esteem, but because you discerned I possess funds. You don't perceive the disparity. The inquiry suspended like a judgment. Sharon advanced nearer, eyes crimson. You're correct. I was dreadful to you. There's no justification. But Walter requires you. He doesn't comprehend why his Nana vanished. The ultimate maneuver employing my grandson as a sentimental barrier. Walter requires me, Sharon, but he also requires to mature in a kin that imparts esteem and genuine principles. Evidently, you both have abundance of labor to perform. I inclined my head toward the portal, terminating the dialogue. That's sufficient for today. When you're prepared to atone earnestly, not to sob because you've just comprehended you maltreated someone with authority, you know where to locate me. I abandoned them lingering there, stunned by the debris of their conceit. The days ensuing were a sentimental tumult. Reginald and Sharon didn't surrender post the dialogue at the estate. Conversely, they endeavored more diligently, which astonished me. On the second day, Reginald appeared solo sans Sharon, bearing a demeanor I hadn't observed in lengthy. Authentic modesty. Mom, I know I have no entitlement to request anything post how we handled you, he commenced as I ajar the portal, but I require you to know I didn't slumber last eve. I reclined there replaying every instant I faltered as a son. His eyes were scarlet. For the initial occasion in years, he appeared susceptible. Enter, Reginald, but this occasion you ingress my abode on my stipulations. I guided him to the deck where I just concluded breakfast. Java? I dispensed into a porcelain vessel, observing his gaze snag on each opulent element, the items he'd observed me employ for so lengthy son discerning their source. Mom, I need to query you something, and I hope you'll respond utterly candidly. He perched on the brink of his seat like a gentleman at an employment colloquy. In all those years, was there ever a duration you sensed I authentically prized you? Not out of duty, but because you're my mama? The inquiry astonished me with its forthrightness. Reginald, there were lovely instants when you were birthed, when you were diminutive, when you authentically required me. But in recent years I halted, seeking terms. In recent years I sensed you endured me more than you esteemed me, precisely what I dreaded you'd utter. He interred his visage in his palms. Mom, I've become someone I don't even identify. I permitted Sharon to render the kin resolutions, even the ones involving you, sans defending your position in our existences. That's arduous to pardon. And what about Sharon? I queried, desiring to know how she was responding. Sharon is attempting to assimilate it. She's been sobbing since yesterday, stating she's the vilest individual alive. But candidly, Mom, I don't know whether those lacrimations are because she wounded you or because she presumes she forfeited the opportunity to profit from your affluence. His frankness halted me brief. And what about you, Reginald? Why are you here because of authentic remorse or because you comprehended I'm not the fiscal load you presumed I was? Both, he responded promptly. I detest to concede it, but it's the verity. I'm here because my core aches, comprehending I was sightless and vicious to you, but also because I'm afraid I've forfeited eternally the one individual who has always adored me unconditionally. At least you're candid. I reclined back, observing the surges pummel the private coast. Reginald, for 15 years, I awaited for you to comprehend you were forfeiting me, but solely when you observed an estate and a fortune did you concede you were erroneous. You're correct. That renders me the vilest sort of son. His timbre expanded. Mom, I know I don't merit pardon. Perhaps it's overdue to rectify what we executed, but I require you to know I rue every instant I induced you to sense diminutive. And what about Walter Reginald? How do you elucidate this to an 8-year-old? That's the most arduous segment. He doesn't comprehend why his Nana abruptly vanished. He inquires about you daily. Yesterday, he stated, "Pa, why doesn't Nana desire to see us anymore?" Lacrimations cascaded down my cheeks. The youngster isn't culpable for his guardian's errors. I uttered softly, my core twisting. "I know, Mom. I'm attempting to elucidate it in a manner he can grasp." I informed him occasionally grown-ups render very substantial errors and have to labor a lengthy duration to rectify them. Right then my device rang. It was Tara. "Are you all right? I observe Reginald is there. I'm fine." "Reginald and I are having a requisite dialogue." "Good. I desired to inform you." "Philip just rang. The entire kin discerns now and everyone is on your flank, just so you're cognizant." Disconnecting. I captured Reginald's inquisitive glance. "The entire kin discerns." "Reginald, what you don't comprehend is that all these years, the kin have observed how Sharon handled me. Everyone's discerned her patronizing comments. Everyone noted how you two progressively excised me from kin existence. This disclosure isn't solely about funds. It's about equity." Philip informed me about the occasion Sharon informed him to cleanse his palms thoroughly before contacting anything. Tara reminded me of when she overlooked to extend to her to an assembly. Your relative stated Sharon once informed her not to convey the little ones because they were too clamorous. Reginald's visage paled with each illustration. I didn't discern. Sharon never informed me because she discerned she was erroneous. Precisely. But she still executed it because she trusted her sway over you was sturdier than your fidelity to your kin. Mom, is there any manner you could pardon us? Any manner we can reclaim your confidence? Reginald, pardon doesn't arrive right post an atonement. It's constructed with consistent deeds over duration. What do we necessitate to execute? His timbre was frantic but genuine. Initially, comprehend this isn't merely my novel abode. It personifies who I truly am, the lady I have always been. You just never troubled to discover. Second, accept that Walter merits to mature with his authentic Nana, not the rendition you favor. He necessitates to know he can aspire grand, reach for the extraordinary, and never permit anyone to induce him to sense diminutive. Third, I tread out to the deck balustrade, pledged to handling everyone with esteem and honor, regardless of how much funds they possess, because true sophistication isn't procured in Italian boutiques, Reginald. It resides in how you handle folks you presume can't proffer you anything in return. Reginald, tread beside me. Mom, I know we have abundance to execute. It may require years to reclaim your confidence, but I'm prepared to execute whatever it necessitates. As for Sharon, she has to resolve for herself what sort of individual she desires to be, but I vow I'll never permit anyone, not even my spouse, to disrespect you anew. One more thing you necessitate to discern, Reginald. I pivoted back, grinning, the grin I hadn't displayed anyone in years. This estate isn't solely mine. I'll bequeath half of it to Walter in my testament, but he solely acquires it if he matures into a gentleman who handles everyone with benevolence and esteem. You're bequeathing him millions. Yes, but more crucially, I'm bequeathing him an instruction. An individual's true merit isn't gauged by what they possess, but by how they handle others, particularly the folks they adore. Reginald disintegrated. Post everything we executed, you're still contemplating Walter's future. I always contemplate him, son. The disparity is that now I possess the assets to ensure he becomes exceptional. Could we convey Walter to visit you? He yearns for you immensely. Yes, but on one stipulation. When he arrives here, he'll encounter the authentic Nana, a business lady, a benefactor, a holding proprietor. I don't desire him maturing, presuming elder folks are a load, or that funds determines an individual's value. Yes, Mom, whatever you utter. Reginald embraced me for the initial occasion in years. In that instant, I glimpsed the diminutive lad I once nurtured with all my affection. There's still optimism for us, son, but that optimism necessitates authentic deeds, not attractive terms. That afternoon, post-Reginald departed, I perched on the deck, observed the dusk, and contemplated everything. I'd accomplished more than a reprisal. I recaptured my honor. I imparted the vital instructions, and I ajar the portal to a reconciliation if it occurs constructed on reciprocal esteem. Most crucially, I demonstrated it's never overdue to safeguard yourself, require the handling you merit, and remind the globe who you are. 3 months post the holiday that altered everything, I perched in the estate's bureau reviewing schemes for a benevolence fund I resolved to institute. The marine vista from the walnut desk reminded me daily. Existence can transform utterly when you dare to advocate and unveil your true merit. Walter has visited me every weekend since January. The initial occasion post the disclosure, that's what the kin calls it. The lad's jaw slackened for 10 consecutive minutes as he toured the estate. Nana, is all of this truly yours? His gaze broad. Yes, darling. And one day, if you become the benevolent, generous gentleman I trust you will, a portion of this will be yours. I also elucidated in terms he could seize. Funds is an instrument to perform good, not to flaunt or demean others. Walter, with a youngster's innate sagacity, comprehended promptly. Why didn't you inform me sooner, Nana? He queried one Saturday morn as we constructed a sand fortress on the private shore. Because I necessitated to know who adored me with their core, Walter. And now I know assuredly. Over those 3 months, Reginald upheld his pledge. He labored to mend matters not with costly presents or ostentatious gestures, but with the minor things I hadn't observed in so lengthy, ringing me daily, not to request anything, just to observe how my day was. Visiting solo sans Sharon to converse candidly about existence, about errors, and about his scheme to become a superior gentleman. Mom, I've been cogitating abundantly, he stated on a Tuesday afternoon. I comprehended that for years I ceased perceiving you as an individual only as my mama, as if that's all you are. That's a prevalent error, son. Folks forget their guardians had an existence prior to they became guardians, and they still possess aspirations, ambitions, and a persona. We perched in the archive filled with tomes I'd amassed for years, but never had space to exhibit. I desire to acquaint that individual, Mom. I desire to know Latrice the venture, Latrice the financier, the lady who constructed all this and still humbly marketed with vouchers. His grin this occasion was authentic, not the coerced sort I endured for years. The tale with Sharon was distinct. In the initial weeks, she endeavored to approach nearer with a blend of hasty tones and lines that still unveiled she hadn't fully seized the extent of her misdeed. Mrs. Moore, I know I was stringent on you, but I didn't anticipate you to harbor resentment like this, she stated in an exasperating ring. Sharon, I responded with the forbearance I'd refined through years of contemplating on the deck. The matter isn't that I harbored resentment. The matter is that for 5 years you endeavored to render me invisible in my own kin. But then something appeared to commence altering in her. Perhaps because she observed Reginald truly altering, or because she comprehended she'd selected the erroneous flank of the tale. Sharon commenced dispatching kinder communications, recollecting instants when we'd harmonized, atoning for comments she ultimately called by their authentic name vicious. On her initial visit to the estate in February, she admitted, Mrs. Moore, I'm in counseling. My counselor is aiding me comprehend that my conduct stems from my own uncertainties. For the initial occasion, I observed her authentically susceptible. The problem, Sharon, is that you endeavored to sense superior by inducing me to sense inferior. That will never be a resolution. I dispensed tea into the porcelain vessels, observing her gaze linger on each element, blended with admiration and remorse. I grasp it now, and I know it may require years to acquire your pardon. But I desire you to know I'm pledged to altering not solely for you, but for Walter. I don't desire my son to mature presuming maltreating others is standard. The most lovely metamorphosis came from Walter. Over duration, he commenced to seize the profoundest instruction in all of this. Nana, he stated one afternoon as we ambled through the yard, now I comprehend why you always inform me to be benevolent to everyone at Academy, even the youngsters who don't possess the cool playthings. Why is that, darling? Because we never discern who's truly exceptional inwardly, like you. You appear like an ordinary Nana, but you've actually been a champion all along. The rationale of an 8-year-old. Flawless. Precisely, Walter. And more crucially, everyone merits benevolence, funds or no funds, authority or no authority. That is the emblem of a truly sophisticated individual. My tale propagated beyond the kin. Alicia disseminated my encounter in ladies' venture clusters, and I acquired scores of communications from elder ladies who'd endured the same, being undervalued, dismissed by their own kin. One missive touched my core from a 74-year-old lady in the Midwest, United States. Dear Mrs. Moore, your tale bestowed me the valor to ultimately inform my kin about the enterprise I initiated 20 years prior. For 2 decades, I feigned to be a tedious pensioner while constructing a 6-figure venture. Your valor aided me recapture myself. With Alicia's backing, I established the Honor and Esteem Fund concentrated on aiding elder folks who've been marginalized or demeaned by their kin. The initial endeavor is a scheme to reconnect nanas and papas with grandchildren, youngsters segregated by poisonous guardians. Do you discern what's optimal about all this, Mom? Reginald queried at last month's kin supper at the estate. And the initial with Reginald, Sharon, and Walter, and everything intact. What is it, son? You didn't merely impart an instruction about esteem. You imparted that it's never overdue to alter your existence, to safeguard yourself, and to require the handling you merit. Sharon nodded, gaze brimming. Even superior, I stated, gazing at Walter, stacking blocks in the lounge. We're imparting, Walter, that authentic potency doesn't stem from funds, but from uprightness, benevolence, and the resolve never to permit anyone to induce you to sense diminutive. That eve post they departed, I tread onto the deck and observed stars mirrored in the vanishing pool. I contemplated the path since the ring that altered my existence. A tale that commenced in omission and degradation, becoming a voyage of advocating and redemption. What I acquired is that true reprisal isn't wounding those who wounded you, but existing so well, so rightly, so vibrantly, that their conduct becomes the greatest disgrace to themselves. I didn't necessitate to demolish Reginald and Sharon. The fact that they comprehended what they'd forfeited was the heaviest repercussion. I recaptured not solely my honor, but my persona. I am no longer the destitute Nana or the reliant widow. I am Latrice, a venture, a benefactor, a lady who discreetly constructed an empire, and utilized that fortitude to impart the most vital instructions about esteem and compassion. As the surges lapped my private coast, I grinned, contemplating those who'd been motivated. If my encounter can bestow even one Nana the valor to advocate and recapture her honor, or guide one kin to handle their elders superiorly, then every minute I was undervalued was worthwhile. At 65, with my rich ebony skin glowing under the starlight and my tightly coiled silver hair framing my face like a crown, I've acquired it's never overdue to rewrite your existence, to display the globe who you are, a resilient Black woman who's overcome and thrived, and to ensure the folks you adore acquire the principles that truly matter, and that more than any estate or fortune is the greatest heritage I can bequeath. Existence imparted me, esteem isn't a thing to implore, but to construct and require. And occasionally the most potent instruction you can bestow is to exist so radiantly that your very presence becomes the evidence of how gravely they misjudged you. That eve I slumbered profoundly on the expansive bed, soothed by the sea, discerning I'd accomplished something scarce. A second opportunity to be myself, fully amid the affection and esteem I always merited. What do you think of my tale? And what metropolis are you hearkening from? Let's convene in the remarks. If you relished it, you can bolster me with a super gratitude so I can persist delivering more tales. Thank you beforehand for being here. I'm awaiting your reflections on this tale. In the footage, there are 2 novel life tales I'm very proud of. Please persist viewing. There's much more on the outlet. Don't overlook to enroll. See you in the subsequent tale with all my gratitude. And so Latrice's voyage concluded not with a boisterous triumph, but with the serenity of a core that has recaptured its honor. That tale reminds us kin isn't gauged by feast arrays or glittering glass, but by how we handle each other when no one is observing. Affection isn't a prerogative, but a duty to foster and safeguard. And occasionally the greatest instruction for grown-ups stems from the lucid gaze of a youngster. I trust the most enduring potency doesn't reside in funds, but in consistent benevolence, the sort that transforms the abode into a domicile and disparities into opportunities to comprehend and mend. If you've ever been demeaned in your own domicile, I hope this tale bestows you a breath to advocate, utter what necessitates to be uttered, and reset your confines with affection. Now it's your turn. Which instant in the tale moved you most? A phrase, an embrace, or a valiant resolution? In your kin, how is esteem being imparted and safeguarded? Disseminate in the remarks so we can hearken, acquire, and develop collectively.